all new episodes. Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to my ranking the episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine with Tiermaker.com. So Season 1 of DS9 actually fared pretty well. There are a fair number of episodes in the upper tiers, and we even have a couple in the S tier, and I'd say that's pretty good, considering this is the first season of the show. Yeah, and sure, there are a couple of episodes that aren't that great that I would even argue you could skip, but we have a very strong start to a Star Trek show. But now let's continue on with Season 2. Opening Season 2 is The Homecoming, which is part 1 of a 3-part episode arc. So it's The Homecoming, The Circle, and The Siege. And right off the bat, I think I'm going to put all 3 episodes in S tier. And I am going to keep them in that order. I hesitate to rank which of those episodes is better than the other because they all work really well together. In fact, I included all 3 of these episodes in my top 10 DS9 episodes list, which might kind of be cheating. Maybe it should have been like my top 12 episodes, but it's really hard just to select one episode out of this 3-episode arc. So in The Homecoming, Major Kira rescues Lee Nahlas, who is this big Bajoran hero during the Cardassian occupation. And he's kind of a reluctant hero, and I wish we got to see more of him in the show, but he's just in these 3 episodes.
But I am not the man that they think I am.
Perhaps not. But Bajor doesn't need a man. He needs a symbol.
Then you have The Circle, which basically Kira lost her job to Lee. The Bajoran government decided to reassign her to a different job. So she goes to hang out with Vedic Bareil, who looks vaguely like Harrison Ford. Very vaguely if you squint your eyes. And the prophets give the both of them these sexy orb experiences, like they're already shipping them. And actually, out of Major Kira's boyfriends throughout the show, Bareil's probably my favorite, except even I will acknowledge they had like next to no chemistry. I wish the writers didn't push Kira and Bareil so quickly together, because I think Nana Visitor and, oh, who was the Bareil actor? I'm gonna look it up. Philip Anglum? Philip Anglum? I think that's how you pronounce his name. If I'm mispronouncing it, I'm sorry. But yeah, I think Nana Visitor and Philip Anglum needed to spend a little more time acting with each other so they could develop that natural chemistry. Because as it was, their love scenes are like super cringy to watch. I have a hard time watching those two do a love scene. Even though I like those two together, but yeah, it's tough to watch even for a fan of that couple. But anyways, in The Circle, Kira gets kidnapped by the Bajoran government. Actually, it's Minister Jaro. I think he's in charge of the Bajoran government at the moment.
Who's really behind this devious plan?
Where would the Circle be getting so many weapons? What will the Federation do?
And the Siege is basically trying to prevent the coup going on in Bajor. But yes, I like those 3 episodes together. It's a great political thriller, there's a little bit of action thrown in there, and it helps develop Bajor into a more developed culture, basically. So, S tier for me. Invasive Procedures. I remember when I first watched that episode and saw the little synopsis of it, I was like, oh, so Jadzia wakes up with a note saying, I took your symbiont, call a doctor. Except that's basically what happens. Like, some people show up on the station, they demand the Dax symbiont, they hold everybody at gunpoint, and Jadzia loses the symbiont for a couple of hours. Yeah, it's an episode I don't mind skipping. It's not a bad episode. I don't mind watching it, but if I skip it in the lineup, it's not the biggest loss. I'm gonna call it a high C episode, C tier episode. I probably enjoy Move Along Home better, to be honest. So I'm gonna put it under Move Along Home. Cardassians. Excellent episode. It builds up the Cardassians, it's got some political intrigue going on. In fact, it's so good, I made an entire video out of it. And yes, Dukat spends most of the episode going, won't someone please think of the children?
I like to think I'm here representing the children. What are we going to do about the children? I suggest we return to the issue of the children.
Oh, won't somebody please
So definitely an S tier episode for me. I think I'll put it underneath Homecoming, The Circle, and The Siege. Oh, the episode has some really good Garrick moments. Watch the episode also for Garrick.
You never mentioned you were friends.
Melora, that's the one with the Starfleet officer that's basically in a wheelchair the entire time. And the reason she's in a wheelchair is because there's not a whole lot of gravity on her planet, so when she goes off her planet, like the weight's too much for her that she can't walk around. I understand why people like the episode. I don't find Melora all that likable personally. Like, I get why she's tough and why she is the way she is, but just something about her rubs me the wrong way. Like I said, not a bad episode. I totally get what the writers were doing with it, but it's pretty meh for me. It's probably better than Captive Pursuit, and I know people are gonna disagree with me putting it in C tier, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the episode. Not a bad episode, I see why people like it, but for the most part, I don't mind skipping it. Rules of Acquisition, the first time we see a Ferengi female.
Doesn't even know I'm a female. You're a woman?
And I find Pell a very likable character, so the whole deal on the Ferengi homeworld is women aren't allowed to earn profit, so Pell, being a woman, disguises herself as a man in order to go out into the galaxy and make her fortune. And she winds up at Quark's, and she develops a bit of a crush on Quark and falls in love with him. So there's kind of like the whole comedy going on with that. But I really enjoy the episode. I'm gonna call it an A tier episode. I'll say it's better than the Nagus.
No! It's a female!
Necessary Evil. Bajoran Unsolved Mysteries, if you will.
Tonight, all new stories on the season premiere of Unsolved Mysteries.
And I will say, like, if you had asked me over a year or so ago, I probably would have classified this as like a B tier episode because it was an alright episode, but, you know, not super high up on my list of episodes that I enjoy. After I covered it in a video and really analyzed the episode, I kind of understood why the episode is as good as it is, and I think I'm going to call it an A tier episode. I'm going to say it's better than Rules of Acquisition. What I appreciate about the episode is that it really does the noir tone very well. From the flashback scenes, which are all like done in blue and it looks all drab and dreary. And when it goes back to the present day scenes, you still have Odo doing voiceovers like he's a detective in a 1940s movie. But yeah, you're kind of hit with the realization that Kira basically got away with murder for 5 years and Odo couldn't figure it out. Like, he worked with her for at least a year on DS9 and probably knew her a little bit before then as well, and still couldn't figure it out. I do kind of like the ambiguous ending of Necessary Evil as well, because Kira asks Odo, will you ever be able to look at me in the same way again? And the episode ends before Odo can answer, and it's a little frustrating because as the audience, we want to hear the answer, but I think cutting the episode right before he answers is actually a really good way to handle it. It's kind of artsy in a way, even if it's a little frustrating. Second Sight is a very skippable episode for me. I'm gonna put it in D tier, and I'll probably put it above The Storyteller. Kind of a weird episode. Cisco falls in love with this woman, and nobody else can see her. And it turns out she's like this mental projection from a wife of a scientist that's visiting the station. Yeah, it's a weird one, and there's not a whole lot in this episode for me. I'm okay skipping it. Sanctuary is one of those episodes that's kind of frustrating to watch, but I almost enjoy it because it gives me something to rant about. I don't know if I'm going to cover it in a video at some point. Maybe I will. But basically, these people are fleeing from their home in the Gamma Quadrant, and I forget if they mention the Dominion or the Jem'Hadar invading their home. So Sisko's trying to find them a new planet they can live on, and he finds this really nice one, like, the ground is super fertile, they can plant crops and farm, and it's great. And they're like, no, we're looking for the promised land, and we want Bajor! Meanwhile, the Bajorans are like, look, the Cardassians crapped up our land for the past 60 years. We can't absorb your population. We're gonna have to tell you you can't settle here. And the reason why the episode is so frustrating is because the leader of these people befriends Kira. But as soon as Kira's like, yeah, I can't really do anything, the Bajoran government made their decision, and yeah, I kind of agree with them because Bajor's been really crapped up for the past 60 years. Then all of a sudden she turns on her like that. And just starts really jerking her around and saying all sorts of awful things to her. And it's like, lady, what the hell? Yeah, I could rant about this episode for a long time, but I might save that for a video. I think I'm gonna call it a low B tier episode, just because it gives me something to rant about. Rivals is another one I'm okay with skipping. It's the episode with Chris Sarandon, and he's rivals with Quark. He's got this weird machine that controls probability on the station and screws everything up. I don't know what kind of science backed that one up, but okay. I think the highlight in the episode was the subplot with Julian and Miles playing spring ball, but that's about it. We do get shirtless Miles, though. We do get that. Honestly, for me, it's probably a D tier episode. It's probably better than Second Sight. So I'm gonna put it there, because I am not a big fan of the episode. I skip it almost every time it's on. The alternate, the one we get to see Dr. Mora, or basically Odo's father. And he's played by James Sloyan, who's always a pleasure to see on Star Trek. This is an episode I know I've seen, but I don't remember a whole bunch about it. I've probably only seen it a handful of times. And I probably need to rewatch it at some point, but I feel like it's a B tier episode. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this'll change. I feel like it's probably better than Sanctuary, but again, I'm kind of going with my gut on that one. I don't remember a whole bunch about it. Yeah, I need to revisit that episode. Armageddon game, that's another one I don't mind skipping. I know it's the start of the Julian and Miles friendship because before they always like annoyed each other. Well, more accurately, Julian always annoyed Miles, but I'm not a super big fan of the trope of, oh no, everybody thinks these two characters are dead, but they're really not. The exception to that rule was the next phase in TNG.
Are you saying I'm some blind ghost with clothes?
Yeah, Armageddon game, it didn't work for me. I'm not a big fan of the episode. I think the highlight of the episode for me was when Keiko's looking at the security footage and she realizes Miles is still alive because he's drinking coffee after 3 p.m. and he never drinks coffee after 3 p.m.
Sure I do.
You do?
The O'Brien marriage, ladies and gents. I don't remember it being necessarily a bad episode, but I'm not a fan of it. I almost want to say it's better than If Wishes Were Horses. No, that's being too mean. It's probably better than Q-less. Because a lot of things are better than Q-less. Man, I'm just hitting a chunk of episodes that I don't mind skipping because Whispers is another one. It's a Chief O'Brien episode. He's going around the station. He thinks everybody's acting suspicious, but it turns out he was actually the replicant the whole time and the real Miles O'Brien was being held captive somewhere. It's a weird episode. I'm not a fan. I'm gonna say it's better than If Wishes Were Horses. That one, I'll put in D tier. Ah yes, Paradise. An episode so frustrating, I made an entire video out of it.
Alexis doesn't believe in doors.
This is another one of those episodes where it's really frustrating to watch, but I kind of low-key enjoy it because it gives me a lot to rant about. If you want the full rant, definitely check out my video on it. It's a very cathartic video, I will say that. But I'm gonna put it above the alternate just for the ranting value. Shadowplay is another Odo mystery, but he's not solving any particular crime. He's just investigating why all these people in this one village in I want to say it's in the Gamma Quadrant, are like disappearing all of a sudden. It's probably not the most interesting episode, but I enjoy it. I'm gonna call it a low A tier episode. I'd say it's not quite Battle Lines, but it's an A tier episode. I do like the episode. It's a quieter episode, but that's okay. Playing God is another one of those episodes I don't mind skipping. Basically, a Trill comes on board the station, he's shadowing Jadzia because he wants to get a symbiont of his own. He's kind of flaky, and Jadzia doesn't think he's ready for it, and yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, this episode's probably better than The Passenger. That ain't saying much, I know, but, yeah, not a whole lot happens in that episode, so I'm okay skipping it. Profit and Loss. DS9 does Casablanca.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I don't understand. That's the thing about love. No one really understands it, do they?
Now, I already thought this was a pretty great episode before I watched Casablanca, but after watching the movie that inspired it, my appreciation for this episode just skyrocketed. It really heightens your appreciation for this episode. This is another episode I did an entire video on. I highly recommend you check it out. Also, I worked really hard on that thumbnail, so you all better appreciate it. But I think I'm just gonna call it an S tier episode. It didn't make it into my top 10 list, but it's a really good episode. I highly recommend it. Blood Oath. Basically, Jadzia goes on a revenge quest with Kang, Korra, and Koloth.
Dax joins a band of Klingon warriors.
Come and fight with us.
On a mission of vengeance.
And they got the actors from the original series to come back and reprise their roles. They got Michael Ansara, they got John Colicos, they got William Campbell. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's an A tier episode. I'll call it better than Necessary Evil. The Maquis. It's kind of sad that DS9 did more to develop the Maquis than Voyager did. And that's a big disappointment for Voyager for me because it really had the opportunity to delve into the Maquis mindset and really develop them as a group. And yeah, it didn't really go anywhere in Voyager, and most of the development for the Maquis happened in DS9. That being said, the Maquis Part 1 and 2 are very good. I'm gonna call them A tier episodes. And I think specifically, I'm gonna put them above the Nagus. The Wire. Great Garak episode. It's probably the first little bit of confirmation we have that Garak was in the Obsidian Order, and he's definitely no simple tailor. Yeah, Garak's been living with this implant in his brain that's supposed to make it easier for him if he's captured not to devolve information he's not supposed to. But in reality, the way he's been using it was to keep him from being too miserable living on DS9 away from his home. So he kind of overdosed on this chip and developed a bit of an immunity to it, so it's not even effective anymore. So Julian's trying to figure out, like, how do we get Garak off this chip? And he even goes to talk to Anabrantane, who's the head of the Obsidian Order, and, you know, Anabrantane's not a good guy, but he's always fun to watch in DS9. He's not necessarily a villain, like in the later show, you know, the Dominion's definitely, like, the villains of the series. And Tane's not a good guy, but he's not really villainous, I guess, if that makes any sense. He's definitely one of those, like, Shades of Grey kind of characters. Maybe on the darker side, because he does do some pretty crazy stuff, but he's always fun to watch.
I always drink Tarkadian tea.
A good host knows the needs of his guests.
But The Wire I'm gonna call an A tier episode. In fact, I'm gonna say it's better than either Past Prologue or Blood Oath. I'm gonna go with better than Blood Oath. I'm sorry, but Crossover is going in F tier. I do not like the mirror universe in Star Trek. I think it basically should have just stuck to one episode in the original series, and that's it. And I'm not even a big fan of Mirror Mirror. But yeah, the DS9 mirror episodes, I am not a fan of. I know people love the Enterprise episodes in A Mirror Darkly, which is a two-parter. Yeah, it's a hard pass for me. I'm not a fan of the mirror universe at all. The Collaborator. The episode we could have gotten Kai Bareil, but instead we got Kai Wynn. don't blame me, I voted for Burial. A little bit of a frustrating episode, not gonna lie, just because we got Kai Wynn at the end of it, but it's another one of those Bajoran political thriller episodes, but DS9 handles those very well. I like the episode. I'm gonna say it's an A tier episode. Probably better than... It's probably better than Shadowplay. Oh, Tribunal, the episode where Chief O'Brien tries to take a vacation and gets arrested by the Cardassians.
I am not guilty. I have committed no crime.
The sentence is death.
And then there's that horrifying shot of Miles, like, holy crap. The lighting was not kind to him. Not a bad little episode. I don't think I'd call it an A tier episode. It's probably a high B tier episode. I'll say it's better than Dex. Ah yes, the Jem'Hadar. The episode where Jake Sisko's science project basically started the Dominion War. And I think I'm gonna call it an A tier episode. I'm gonna call it better than maybe Rules of Acquisition. I'll call it better than Rules of Acquisition. In all seriousness, the episode is pretty good. It's got action, there's some comedy when you have Quark basically going camping with Sisko, Jake, and Nog was also told he had to tag along because Jake made him his partner for the science project, and Keiko's like, well, it has to be an equal partnership. He has to go on the camping trip with you. So basically, Jake's science project is all Keiko's fault. Or depending on how you look at it, it could be Sisko's fault as well, because Jake just wanted to grow some beans.
But don't you think it's a little low-tech?
I'm a low-tech kind of guy, Dad.
And then we spend the rest of the episode thinking, don't you wish you just let him grow beans, Dad?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
At least a great little episode. I like it. I like it. It's an A tier episode. And that's it. That's season 2 of DS9 in Tiermaker.com. And if we look at where the episodes fall, we still have a good chunk of them in the upper tiers. So S, A, and B tiers have a fair number of episodes. There's really only a handful of episodes in the lower tiers. And only one episode that I put in F tier, and that's pretty good. But yeah, DS9 is a very strong show, and even the early seasons have some really strong episodes that end up in A tier. And I imagine when I go through season 3, the upper tiers are going to fill out even more so. So stay tuned for that. And as always, thanks for tuning in to another Star Trek video. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends. Until next time.
I'm a low-tech kind of guy, Dad.